Welcome to Cloud on Air, live webinars from Google Cloud. We host webinars every Tuesday. My name is Lorena Crowley, and I'm here today to talk to you about managing Chrome browser updates in your enterprise. As enterprises look to adopt Chrome browser or make it its primary browser, the topic of how to manage updates comes up often. In today's session, we'll talk through some of your options for managing updates and give you some tips so that you can best deploy auto updates in your environment. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about why the browser is growing in importance. You may have already noticed some shifts in your own enterprise that impact the way you think about the web browser. Research shows that users leverage 22 cloud and SaaS-based apps across 3 devices to get their jobs done. We did some recent research with Forrester that revealed the average user spends about 1/3 of their day in the web browser. And there's an even more connected group of users that spend upwards of 4 hours a day getting work done in their browser. We'll talk about that group of users in a little bit. And we know this trend is likely on the rise. 81% of IT professionals report that they'll continue to view cloud and SaaS app adoption as a priority when they explore the adoption of new apps in their environment. I talked about this idea of a more connected type of worker. At Google Cloud, we call these members of the workforce cloud workers. These cloud workers are highly reliant on browser and web applications to get their jobs done, and also have a highly remote and mobile working style. 1 in 4 workers are actually already considered cloud workers, and some of you might consider yourself cloud workers. Because of cloud-based app adoption and the growth of cloud workers, the importance of the browser has elevated across the enterprises. The browser is no longer a passive tool used to browse data. It's now at the crux of where business users go to access the critical applications they need to be productive. I know when I go to work in the morning, the browser is the first thing that I open. And for people like me, the browser has actually become my desktop. It's the place I go to get my work done and to be productive. Because people are spending so much more time in their browser, it's more important than ever before for IT to really have a strategy around the benefits of the modern browser. When we talk to our customers who are adopting Chrome browser in their enterprise, the benefits that they find are really in 3 key areas. Let's talk about management. Chrome browser makes it simple for IT to manage through their existing management tools. For example, you can manage hundreds of policies through Group Policy. We make these templates available, and I'll show you exactly where you can find those later on. For Mac users, we offer documentation on how you can manage through plists. And we also offer the option of managing your browser instances right from the cloud in the Google Admin Console. We'll be opening up this capability to IT admins that aren't Google admins today in the coming months. At that point, we'll have a single destination for IT to manage Chrome browser instances across all of the different platforms in their environment. Security is also critical. Chrome browser is constantly increasing built-in security capabilities for its broader user base, and those benefits extend to the enterprise as well. For example, the Safe Browsing service offered by Google helps users be prevented from visiting infected or potentially malicious websites. And our sandboxing and site isolation capabilities ensures that threats cannot spread from within or between tabs, making sure that these threats cannot spread across your network. With IT's ability to enforce and add additional policies and controls, enterprises find that they can get Chrome to a secure state that meets even the most stringent security requirements. And of course, there's your happy users. Chrome browser offers a familiar experience that your users love. so they can pick up right where they left off and be productive across all of the different devices that they use in their working day. At the end of the day, whether we're talking about web browsers or any technology decision, we know that IT is constantly balancing two very important requirements: security and the user experience. While IT teams and security teams might see this lockdown state as an ideal state from a security perspective, user experience simply can't fall to the wayside. And we know that IT folks agree. In a recent Forrester survey, 73% of IT professionals said that employee experience is a top priority when they make technology decisions in their enterprise. Chrome browser really helps IT teams strike this balance between users and security. And auto updates are no exception. You're here today to learn more about the Chrome browser update model, and it's a great example of how IT teams can promote both the latest security capabilities while offering a great user experience. Automatic updates are standard for Chrome browser, and let's look exactly why that's our primary recommendation for enterprises. Chrome's commitment to delivering continuous enhancements provides a fast and easy way to keep your employees productive. All of that is alongside timely vulnerability mitigations and new security capabilities. So with auto updates running, your enterprises get fast and instant access to the latest browser with the most advanced protections available to them. And with auto updates, you eliminate the need for IT to handle manual patching efforts, freeing up IT's time and resources. And there's great benefits for users too. For example, they can get an optimized experience on the modern web apps that they use by using the latest version of the browser. And if all your users are running on the same version of the browser, it makes it easy for you to handle any potential support issues or challenges that might arise. And for the users, the updates themselves are seamless. It just takes a simple refresh, and they're guaranteed to be on the latest version that's available to them. And for our customers who've opted into Chrome Enterprise support, they get 24/7 access to Chrome experts to help them with their deployment and browser installations. And they'll have the peace of mind knowing that their users are on the latest supported version of the browser. You might be wondering how Chrome browser's update model compares to other modern or legacy browsers. Chrome sets the pace in browser updates for the industry, but we'll let the metrics speak for themselves. We always encourage fast and frequent auto updates as a best practice, but we know some enterprises have unique testing or internal requirements that might make it challenging to stay on automatic update models. So we do have some options available for you to manage this process. Let's take a look at these more closely. Even if your organization has a desire to benefit from auto updates, you could have some internal challenges that make this difficult. Some of those common things include concerns around application compatibility, unique testing requirements, change management processes that you're required to follow, internal security reviews, and even regulatory requirements. If for these reasons or others, auto updates aren't exactly for your organization, you can turn off the auto update functionality. We just want to make sure that you're aware that it's a bit of a trade-off. You may not be running with the latest security releases, and when it comes to UI changes or other enhancements, your users may not be getting the latest and greatest experience that we have to offer. We'll also cover some options you have for looking ahead to the beta channel, because there's some great ways that you can take advantage of early access to that beta channel to get ahead on some of the testing or internal requirements that might make auto updates a little bit more viable for your organization. Let's talk about the Chrome release cycles so you know exactly what to expect. The Chrome release cycle runs roughly every 6 weeks, moving from beta into stable in time for the next beta release. The ideal time for you to test your apps is during those first 2 weeks of a beta release. If you find any issues with Chrome, you should immediately report them to Google within this 2-week window. That will help us ensure that we're delivering a stable version that's going to be great for you and your users. And Chrome browser has multiple release channels. You have access to all of these, and you can access them as early as your organization wants. By leveraging the various release channels and testing, you can be in an auto-update world while still having the opportunity to adequately test in your enterprise. All of these channels, ranging from Chrome Canary across to Chrome Stable, are available to you. At a minimum, we recommend that your organization leverages the beta version for testing internally. Each stable release marks a major version release, and each Chrome platform has a different stable rollout plan. It's important to note that this can vary based on circumstances, but this is a good general guide that can help you with your planning. Today we're mostly going to focus on desktops. The desktop consists of three main platforms: Windows, Mac, and Linux. Linux is ramped up 100% immediately. Mac and Windows, on the other hand, follow a staged rollout plan, starting at 5%, moving to 15%, going up to 50%, and then reaching 100%. You may notice this rollout process within your organization if you're using auto updates. This staging process allows for any potential issues to be detected early. In a sense, we're offering your organization a built-in safeguard for auto updates. We've talked about testing quite a bit here, but how should you go about internal testing? We have a few tips for you. First off, you should be leveraging release notes that are available on the Help Center to help you understand what's new. They're released within a few weeks of the beta release, and they highlight any new functionality that could be of interest to your enterprise. In some cases, we'll even highlight future changes coming in upcoming releases so that you can plan ahead. We also suggest that you enable a group of users within your organization to become testers. You might be surprised at how some users are interested in wanting to be a part of these early testing groups. We also recommend that you consider some automated testing around features and applications that are leveraging Chrome. Overall, it's a good idea to invest your internal testing resources in Chrome as well. We know a lot of organizations have dedicated teams that focus on testing on-premise apps. The browser itself sometimes gets forgotten. And with each update, Chrome browser is changing. So as your users rely more on the browser, it makes sense to have some resources that have ownership over the testing of their apps on Chrome browser and the browser itself. No matter what, the best thing is to find a process or cycle that works for your organization. You might find that auto updates are actually easier for your team to manage than you thought. If we look at a great way we see some organizations segment their users and maximize their use of updates, it looks something like this. There might be a small group of select beta users. They're serving as an internal source of QA, really testing out the browser latest release on the applications and things that they do on a daily basis. Then the majority of your users will be on the stable version, running auto updates, always making sure that they're on the latest and greatest version of Chrome. Then you might have a much smaller group of exception users that happen to be pinned on a version of Chrome. Again, we really encourage this being the exception, and we'll talk a little bit more about that among all of your options. Across the board, you can approach updates with Chrome in 4 different ways. If you haven't caught on yet, our recommendation is to keep auto updates on and enabled. It's the default, and we make additional policies available to help you make sure these updates actually take place. For example, you can use a policy that designates users to refresh their browser within a given time frame. That makes sure they don't miss any critical updates because they haven't refreshed or restarted their browser in a while. Another option you have is to disable auto updates, but issue periodic updates on your own. Most organizations handle this through a third-party software distribution tool, using manual GPO updates or other processes. You can also disable updates entirely, pinning your user to a specific version. As discussed before, this is really only recommended to be an exception, and we want to make sure that you're limiting this so that folks are getting the maximum security and user experience benefits from Chrome. In some cases, you might need to take a mixed approach. You might need to have some of these pinned users based on a very specific business need, whether it's an application requirement or some sort of security and compliance reason, while your broader group can still be benefiting from the use of auto updates or scheduled updates. We're going to quickly show you how you can get started managing updates. I'm going to visit chrome.com/enterprise, which is the download page that includes all of the downloads, files, and templates and more that you need to manage Chrome browser in your enterprise. Let's focus on Windows. You'll see that we have enterprise bundles and standalone MSI files, which you would need to come retrieve if you decide to disable auto updates. We make templates available for Google Updates. This is for updates across Google services, including Chrome. On the next tab, you can see documentation that we make available for managing those updates. It'll guide you through the downloading process and the process for installing templates into the Windows Policy Definitions folder. On the next tab, you'll see some GitHub files that one of our Chrome deployment specialists has made available. This script will kick off the download of the GPO templates, unzip and install them into the Windows Policy Definitions folder. This is an alternative to the manual steps outlined in the previous steps. From here, you'll be able to view policy options around disabling auto updates, dive into policy settings to set auto updates, manage timing of your auto updates, and you can enforce policies like the one that prompts your users to restart to trigger a browser update. Let's suppose you've decided that you want to use software distribution for your initial deployment of Chrome. This is a common scenario. The steps would look a little something like this. You would go through an initial discovery process to understand what's currently on your desktops. Perhaps there are versions of Chrome that were self-installed by users. Once you've done this discovery, you'll want to build out your enterprise Chrome package using the MSI that we saw when we visited chrome.com/enterprise. The next thing you want to do is identify a group of pilot users to install this on. Based on the feedback you receive and any of the change management or release management processes you need to go through, you can move through that step. Then you'll move on to installing Chrome into your production environment. Once you've done that rollout, you can focus on updates and really put yourself in maintenance mode around the browser. As you can see, if you've completed that cycle and decide to leave auto updates on, you'll really only need to focus on the feedback and the updates. And you'll have the assurance that every 6 weeks, your enterprise is getting the latest and greatest updates. If you decide to disable auto updates, though, you can plan to issue periodic updates. But you'll look at repeating many of these same steps again for each time you update. As you can see, you can get significant time savings by staying on the auto update model. Another topic that comes up around updates is around the ADM, ADMX templates that we make available. With each release, new GPO templates become available. That's often because we're introducing new policies around management and control. So if you see that there's new policies that you want to take advantage of in a given release, you'll need to visit that same Chrome Enterprise site and install these files separately. At the end of this session, I'll provide you a link to where you can see an updated policy list, which should serve as a great guide for you to review when you want to determine when you're ready to go in and install new template updates. Another question we get is around legacy browser support. Legacy browser support is an extension available to enterprises right within the Enterprise bundle. It's a great tool that allows you to predetermine which set of legacy apps, legacy URLs, will open dynamically in a legacy browser, for example, Internet Explorer. Enterprises love legacy browser support because it allows them to keep their users' primary browsing experience within Chrome browser, where they can benefit from all the security capabilities and access their modern apps. Then when a user goes to use a legacy app, they'll automatically get redirected into Internet Explorer. And once they're ready to browse or use a different app, they'll be redirected dynamically right back into Chrome. This is great for these scenarios where an enterprise is living partway between a modern and a legacy app world. This extension is updated periodically, but it's not included in auto updates. So you'll just want to make sure that you're planning on reviewing those updates and distributing them accordingly as it makes sense for your organization. Legacy browser support is an example of one popular extension, and it's a Google extension. But we know in your enterprise you probably have quite a few third-party extensions that your users love to use in their environment to help make them more productive. Managing updates for third-party extensions comes up sometimes too. Extension management is built into the Chrome Enterprise bundle. There's a variety of different policies that really let you control access to extensions. You can even get very granular around permission controls that are allowed around these extensions. But when it comes to updating them, you have a few choices. The web store can allow for auto updates, or you can decide to pin extensions in your environment. Your organization should really decide what approach makes sense around managing and updating the extensions in their environment. We've covered a lot of information, but what can your teams be doing today, and what early next steps can you take? Well, for starters, it's a great conversation to have around what your bandwidth and tolerance is for new updates within your organization. There's really a trade-off that happens. Do you want the security enhancements guaranteed with the latest version of the browser, or would you rather control timing of updates on your own? Your team should spend a little bit of time getting familiar with some of the release cycles I mentioned today. Really determine how you can possibly maximize testing within your organization based on the different release cycles. You can also see if there's an opportunity to segment your users. In a lot of organizations, there's a group of users that would do great on auto updates. That way, if you're deciding to manage or pin updates, it's really for an isolated group of users. That'll take the burden off of your team when it comes to managing and securing the browser. And of course, you'll want to make sure that you're reviewing the enterprise release notes that we make available to you often and early. It'll give you great visibility into changes coming ahead so that your organization can plan accordingly. I've talked about a lot of information today, and I wanted to end our session with some useful links that you might find beneficial. Chrome.com/enterprise is the page that we visited in the demo, where you got to see all of the resources available to you in a single place. That page is updated with every release and includes access to dev and beta versions. I talked a little bit about the Chrome Browser Enterprise Support offering. That's an optional 24/7 email and phone access to Google support. That's something that you can visit our website and contact sales to learn more about. We also have a team of enterprise browser support specialists that can help you and answer any questions you might have about Chrome browser adoption in your environment. They can be reached at this email alias here. Additionally, as you look at how new policies are made available to you, there's a complete policy list that you can visit visiting this URL here. It'll give you good visibility into the latest policies so you can decide when it's the right time for you to go and update your policy templates from chrome.com/enterprise. You can also visit the release notes at this URL. You'll also have an opportunity there to sign up to receive updated release notes automatically via email. And of course, the Google Chrome Enterprise Help Center, which is a great resource where you can get all of the best documentation and information that you need so that you can best manage Chrome browser in your environment. I hope you found this session helpful. Stay tuned for a live Q&A. We will be back in less than a minute to answer your questions. Let's take a look at some common questions that we get around managing Google Chrome updates. One question we get is whether release notes cover all updates. That's a good question. What our enterprise release notes really aim to do is look at some of the changes to Chrome browser, the policies, and relevant extensions that have the potential to impact your enterprise. We try and highlight and focus on those major changes. So while you won't get an exhaustive list of all the changes to Chrome browser, this is a great resource and a great starting point to help you as you plan out your testing and rollouts of new versions of Chrome browser. Another question we get is around the staged rollouts. We've had some enterprises ask if they can opt specific users into getting immediate rollouts instead of waiting for that staged rollout. Unfortunately, the staged rollout works in a way so that we're able to account for any early potential issues and challenges and address them. So there's no way to designate exactly who those users are. However, if you do have a group of users that you would like on the latest version, they might make for a great option as your beta testing group. Another question that sometimes comes up is around our enterprise support offering and whether some Google customers already have access to Chrome Enterprise support for the browser. The support offering that I talked about is a standalone offering, and it gives folks 24/7 access to reach out to Chrome browser specialists that can help answer questions about their deployments. If you do happen to have G Suite, you already have access to this service. But if you're just using Chrome browser and don't have other contracts with Google in place, this is a great option for how IT can work directly with Google to make sure Chrome browser is successful in their environment. We also sometimes get questions around managing updates for Mac users. You probably noticed that most of today's session really focused on Windows environments, because we know that is predominantly where most of our enterprise users are. However, we do make documentation available to help you configure and manage policies, including managing updates for your Mac environments. And we do this via plist. I encourage you to check out the Help Center for all of that information. Stay tuned for the next session, CE Chat, how Cloud Composer orchestrates containers and more. Thank you.